Let's begin. So we're all familiar with the famous parable of the Alter Rebbe that I want to analyze and reveal new depth. And that is as follows. Alter Rebbe's question. From Rosh Chodesh ELUL till Yom Kippur, which was the fourth time Moishe Rabbeinu went up on Mount Sinai and came back down with the second set of luchos, the second set of tablets, and the wonderful news that Hashem had forgiven the Yidden. That's why Yom Kippur is Yom Kippur. God established that day thereafter unto all generations. So that was the third 40-day period that Moishe Rabbeinu was up on Mount Sinai. The first was Shavuos, ended the 17th of Tammuz with the shattering of the luchos. He went up for another 40 days, unsuccessfully eliciting Hashem's forgiveness. Went up a third 40 days on Rosh Chodesh ELUL, coming down on Yom Kippur, the 10th of Tishrei. And during those 40 days, Moishe Rabbeinu elicited God's forgiveness by invoking the 13 divine attributes of mercy, which Yigim Midas Harachamim, which, not surprisingly, dominate the Yom Kippur service. Now, these 13 divine attributes of mercy that Moishe Rabbeinu elicited, these are not words simply. This is, as explained in Kabbalah and Chassidus, lofty revelations of Hashem. Let me explain what this means. When we sin, we don't just blemish ourselves, our souls, our bodies, the world. We tarnish, we poison ourselves. Not only that, but every transgression, because we're made in the image of God, we tarnish divine attributes and levels above. God says, I'm with you in your tzara, that is in the most literal way, affected by your mitzvah and affected by your sin. The Shekhinah is in exile. In the words of the Alter Rebbe, it's like taking the king's head and putting it in a bucket of excrement. That's what a sin does. The Eibishter invested in me, and if I do that which is contrary to his desire and will, I drag him into it. And him means the entire divine system, the malachim, the works, which is why the angels trembled when God made man, because they knew that our actions will determine their fate. Gimel Midas Harachamim, the 13 divine attributes of mercy, are an infinite revelation of a God that, when drawn down, can fill the gaps and cleanse the blemishes and even the holes. Holes means I didn't do what I should. There's one thing doing a sin, so that's a blemish, that's poison. And what I just didn't do, there's just a gaping hole of life. So the Yigim Mitzrachim are so powerful because they're infinite and transcendent, as explained in Kabbalah. 13 attributes, just to throw this out. Number 13 is very significant. Echad is 13. Aleph, Ches, Dalet, 1, 8, and 4 is 13. So they reveal the oneness of God beyond the divine system. It's infinite and endless, inexhaustible. And when that's drawn, it washes away and cleanses and fills the gaps. Transformative, extraordinary. Even the golden calf, the truth is every sin is the golden calf. Every sin is idolatry. As we learn in Chassidus, idolatry doesn't simply mean no God. I don't believe in God and I'm worshiping who knows what. Of course, that's idolatry. Idolatry means you are not God. Does it mean you are not God? And not God means you stop here and I start here. Time out. You're there. Right now, this is my little world and I'm doing what I want. That makes God impotent. This is not him. He's not creating it. I've excluded him. That's what idolatry means. When I say that, me too, my desire counts, even if it contradicts yours. I'm denying the exclusivity, the emes, that I don't. I'm a creation of him. I have no independence. His will is reality. I only exist because he wants me to. Giving my own desire independent validity, even temporarily, is to exclude his absoluteness. What I get, I'm not independent. My whole body, everything is because he's creating it. So I'm creating this delusion. It's all idolatry is a lie. I'm creating this delusion of me too. So every sin is the golden calf, on some level. Every sin is avodah zarah, which is why at Mount Sinai, all we heard from God was two things: I am God and don't serve idols. There's 611 things to come. That's just details. Get this straight, everything else will follow. Every mitzvah affirms the reality of God. Every sin denies his exclusivity. It's because it's time out. It's saying up to here, but not here. I'll get back to you later. So every sin is avodah zarah. It's a big teaching in Tanya. If we would really grasp it, that's the whole key to Tanya, that I'll never serve idols. We really understand that this is what it comes down to, that I won't sin. So it's a long, lengthy elaboration, which I just touched upon now. The words are easy to say, but the point is to really internalize it. We spoke about that song before, the Beinoni. That's the Beinoni's constant struggle, is with my experience, which I don't even feel God, but then to overcome through that resistance, through understanding that he is the reality. And it only exists because he wants me to. So how can I exclude him from this moment? That needs constant meditation, which is why we daven constantly meditate this all the time, because our senses tell us otherwise. So they tell us me, and also you. Truth is not, it's only you and therefore me. So it's constant work. So comes Elul, giving Midas Harachamim, and Moishe Rabbeinu will listen to this then and forever. And it's the tzaddikim every generation that elicit the same. It's extraordinary. These 13 divine attributes, this oneness of God, tapping into that, the past is transformed, the blemishes are washed away, the system that was broken, fixed, died, is revived. Every sin is death. It's another metaphor. Revival of the dead. So ask the Alter Rebbe, such an extraordinary time, Gewalt. How is it that the days are ordinary weekdays? It should be days of Yom Tov, of transcendence. The answer is, we're all aware of the famous parable of the king in the field. Briefly, the parable is like this: when the king's in the palace, there's a whole protocol. Who's invited? And once you're invited, there's a dress code, there's a way you talk, it's very demanding. You're sitting at the king's table. But then there's a time when the king's in the field. The king comes to the field. The king comes to the field. Anybody can approach him, and he stands there expectantly and waiting with a smiling countenance. There's no protocol. As you are, weekday, sullied, busy with the tomatoes and potatoes, or worse. Actually, there's the desert. Desert is death. That's sin. The field represents just material pursuits. Innocent pursuits, but they're not divine. It's my world. I'm wrapped up in it. I've got to put bread on the table or in the field. Most of our life, we're laborers, one way or another. So in our world, God comes standing right there, the king in the field. Anybody can approach him. That's Elul, which answers the question. It's a time of tremendous closeness, and yet, unlike Shabbos and Yom Tov. What's Shabbos and Yom Tov? Shabbos and Yom Tov is every week and every Yom Tov, we all get a gilded invitation. My child, you're invited to dine at my table, to spend 24 hours together. There's a protocol. We all get the invitation, but there's a protocol. All the laws of Shabbos are just meant to lift us to this place of unity, of oneness with God. And the more we're attentive to the laws, the more we're into literally that space. And the more one can really feel and sense the holiness, the transcendence of the day. That's Shabbos and Yom Tov. It's a holy time, but where's the holiness happening? Not in my world. We've got to extract ourselves from the morass of everyday life, and that's the laws of Shabbos. That's what they're doing. We're lifted. We enter into the palace, the king's table, 24 hours of Me'ein Olam Haba, taste of the world to come. Elul is even closer, because Elul, the king, is like smiling, and there's no protocol, and looking at us, and there's no protocol. All you got to do is just put down the hoe for a second and smile back and want to connect. That's what it is. I just want to connect, and it's available without limitation. Without limitation. So the king in the field metaphor, Melech Basada, explains on the one hand a time of incredible revelation of God beyond the norm, beyond the divine system, beyond the divine system of the heavenly court. This is over the protest of the heavenly court. Moishe Rabbeinu labored 120 days with this, for the last 80 days. What was he laboring again? What was he fighting? God doesn't want to forgive? Because there's a whole, what do you mean forgive them? Look what they did. And over the protests and over the protests, he invokes, because he needed the Jews' help, their teshuvah. They were slowly like realizing what they did and their teshuvah and his great effort on high, and he elicits unconditional love, all transformed, changed, reborn, rebirth. And it all starts, Elul culminates in Kippur. And where is it happening? On our plane, in our world. So it's ordinary weekday, and yet at the same time, this extraordinary time of Gimel B'Des Harachmi. That's the famous, we're all familiar with this, the famous parable of the king in the field that explains Elul. I just, by the way, this is cute. I can show it to you if I can find it. I got a text from a friend of mine, a little cartoon. Some bocher made this, so I can find it quickly. Was it Yankee winner? He's in Australia. He's a teacher there in Yeshiva Mashpia. I don't know if you can see it. See this picture here? I'll show it here. So it's Elul. Now one guy is raising his eyes in terror, trembling, Oi Gewalt. And the other one raising his hands in exaltation. Oi, it's Elul. And what's the difference? The first guy is Elul, the Gewalt, we're going to be on trial. Who's going to live? Who's going to die? God's going to punish me, and I'm on trial, and the book of life and death and pandas, and trembling, terrifying time, Elul. And the other one, Gewalt. Elul is embracing King in the field. King in the field. Elul is, Hashem is beginning to show, my child, you are everything to me, and I'm coming to you. I'm just waiting. You look at me. Feel my love to you. And we're going to reconnect and transform the entire past. As you spoke last week, we're coming from the month of Av, which is all churban, house destroyed and exile, and the relationship in tatters. That's where we're coming from. We're going to transform that Aryeh. It's the month of the Aryeh, of the lion, Leo, the month of Av. Nebuchadnezzar is called the great lion who destroyed the Beis Hamikdash, which is called the lion. And the word Aryeh, the Shalom HaKadosh, brings from Kadmonim, stands for Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shana Rabbah. It all starts then. Why? Because what's Elul all about? We're going to transform all of that. All of that distance is going to be the fuel for a new passion and connection and appreciation that if you hadn't been distant, you would never have. So that's what's happening now. That's the general idea. And what I want to do again today, and remember, maybe we'll finish part of it, is to go into a little bit of a detail of the Alter Rebbe's Moishe. Let me tell you where we're going with this. Conventionally, Elul leads us to the climactic moment of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That's the climax. And that's true on one level. That's not going to change. The climactic, quintessential moment of oneness with God is the ELUL Yom Kippur. No question. We're building to that. After we finish our explanation, we're going to see on a deeper level, now is deeper. Now is the essential connection. And what's happening is we're just going to reveal that, unpack it, express it. And the deepest expression will be Yom Kippur. But the essential, deepest bond is now in the month of Elul. We're going to see, God willing, that the blowing of the shofar in the month of Elul, one, it's only a custom. Shon, it's been obligated. It's a commandment. But like everything Chassidus, there's always the paradox. On a deeper level, the essential shofar is now. Let's begin our explanation. This is a heads up where we're going. Deep appreciation of the time that we're in. The good news, friends, is that today is what? The 6th of Elul. So it's still early. So we've got a chaparaj. The march of time, friends. The march of time. What can you do? The older we get, the faster it goes. Thank God for Shabbos. It's a moment that we can kind of stop to some degree everything. Okay, let's look at the Alter Rebbe's Moshel. The Moshel, the parable, has 4 parts to it, which we're going to identify and explain. The first one is the king in the field. King goes out to the field, and that's where we are, the laborers are in the field. Then he goes on to describe how two things describes the king. He receives everyone with a pleasant disposition, and then a smiling face. Save upon him yofes, in Hebrew, mar upon him sheicha kaistakula. First pleasant and then laughing or even smiling. Now, the Rebbe's language, everything is precise. Could have used other language, one expression, uses two. And clearly we're seeing how we're going from one number 6. If you don't mind, just pick it up, hit the number 6. Thank you.
How many 6?
Yeah, the number 6. That's going to buzz them in. That's what they're going to do. This hour, people coming to daven, but yeah, in the middle of the night, you wouldn't just do it. You usually could ask who's there, and that's more prudent nowadays. Today we can't know. So, first thing is connecting the field. Connecting the field. Then 2 levels of the king's love, pleasant, and then laughing. And then we go back with him into the city. That's how the parable ends. That's Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. Connect in the field and then go back into the city, into the palace, the high holidays. Hit the pause button. I'm going to tell you something which will be the model to explain these 4 stages. The field, the king's 2 loving responses, and then into the palace. Friends, there are 4 levels, 4 rungs in our service of God in terms of our love and awe of God. 4 levels. Hinted to in the following verse. And these, the ELUL, these are the children of Yitzchak, the son of Avraham. Avraham was the father of Yitzchak. Note the order. Yitzchak is mentioned first, Avraham 1, Avraham 2, Yitzchak at the end. Explains Kabbalah as follows. As we all know, Yitzchak served God out of awe and fear. Avraham, chesed and love. Note the order here, therefore. The first level rung in the service of God is the lower fear. I'll just say them in names and then define them. Lower fear, lower love, higher fear. What are these levels? Right, that's the order here. Yitzchak, Avraham, Yitzchak, as they appear in the pasuk. The lower fear is the obvious. Why Yiddishkeit? Fear, punishment, consequence, fear of not getting reward. That's how it starts. Like in a marriage, look, the first motivation is really fear. Got to get married. Can I be alone all my life? You haven't even met the person. I don't even know you're gonna. But what motivates us is it can't be love. You haven't engaged yet. So what's the first step? It's kind of this negative thing. Is I can't be like all my life alone. Got to have children or die without children. Need a family. Need a wife to look after me. Whatever it is, it's a fear thing, and that's the first motivation. So again, when it comes to Yiddishkeit, the basic motivation is reward and not punishment. Very self-serving. That's the lowest and starting point. That's how it must be. I don't want to be alone. I want to get reward in the hereafter. I want to get reward in this world. Like Tevye said, it'd be so terrible. I was a rich man here. And we know the Torah promises. The main reward is in the world to come, but there's also the fruits in this world. And I'm afraid not to get that. So that's the beginning. Then the next level is the low level of love. Then he starts to develop an actual appreciation. It's not just afraid of not getting reward and punishment. Actually loves and enjoys Yiddishkeit. It's beautiful. So now he's dating. He goes out with this person, starts to appreciate them. What this person is doing for him. Still selfish. But it's not so much a fear, but an enjoyment and a love for the relationship. Not just afraid to be alone, enjoying your company. So in terms of relationship with God, the person starts to, he looks forward to Shabbos. He actually enjoys it. Now, learning is beautiful and Shabbos is beautiful. Yiddishkeit is beautiful and he sees the benefits here and now. Just look at it today, it's not a big mystery. A life of Yiddishkeit, it's a beautiful life, and Nachas children, it works. Mikveh works, it all works, it just enhances the relationship. And he loves it, and contemplates for Shabbos, and enjoys the shir. Beautiful. It's all still self-serving, the lower love. I am enjoying this. I love Yiddishkeit. That's the lower level of Avraham. Then there's the higher level of Avraham. Then I love you because of you, not what you do for me. This is all about the privilege to be in the relationship. Here it's already shifting from self to service. The higher level of love, sacrifice kicks in. Lower level is not sacrificing. On the contrary, his whole Yiddishkeit is how much is he enjoying. He learns as much as he likes. Everything he does is just to make him, to satisfy his desire. So he's loving it all, but there's a cap. So I feel satisfied, this is enough. My tzedakah, whatever it is, there's a limit. The second one, a limit's a pull. It's a privilege to give. Tzedakah, and he's learning, he pushes the envelope and everything. That's the higher level of love. That's the second Avraham. Here the focus is not on self, but on you. The ultimate is Yitzchak, the higher Yitzchak. Or is complete transcendence of self. Because I love you, it's still the I. And there's still, to use an example, metaphor of a marriage. You go beyond the envelope. And you buy your wife a gift, whatever it is, and you really extended yourself and invested time more than when you give it to her, you have the satisfaction still. She appreciates, you're enjoying the fruit of your labor and what you've achieved. You know what awe means? Putting self aside, it's only you. One example of awe is he's out with the boys, whatever it is, and she said, she's playing a game of cards, example we always use. I don't think anybody here plays cards. In case you did, you get the point. And he's got a great hand, he's gonna win the game. She said, behind by 10. Puts it up, goes home. He doesn't come up with any gift, nothing. This moment, what did you get? Nothing. It was respect. My wife wants me home. He's home. Didn't give anything, didn't do anything. It was purely a moment for her. That's the highest. Notice it, it's out of satisfaction. It's just making space for someone, because that's what you want, even if I don't understand it. And what's wrong if I stay 10 more minutes? But that's what you want. That's the highest level, because that's complete self-nullification. That's all. That's all respect. Where it's totally about you and I'm not even in the picture. Making space. A simple example of that, we say tznius. Tznius, modesty, it's a multi-layered thing. It's really the essence of a marriage. Tznius means not just covering yourself up or whatever. It's don't look at someone's flaw. Don't look at something which is not, which she doesn't want to be exposed, whether it's personality, physical, whatever it is. It's not, there's no satisfaction. There's just, you don't look there. Get yourself out of the picture. Give her that space. And in your relationship, not to see the ugliness. Give them that is the deepest, because that's complete self-negation. That's respect and awe. That's the highest level. Now we're going to see, we'll visit next week, the 4 levels of description of the Alter Rebbe. We're going to see how it parallels all of this. And the paradox at the end, at the starting point, is really the essence. We said it was a selfish thing. We'll see that's where it starts. But more, that'll all come, the paradox later, God willing, next week, as we deepen our appreciation of the exquisite and wonderful time that we are in. Have a wonderful day, everybody, a wonderful Shabbos.